getting the ball rolling here. How would you describe what ordinary Zen is?
Well, I like the idea of just being an ordinary human being. Nothing special, nothing added to it, just the way we are. So ordinary to me infers that we don't have to add anything to what we already are. We don't have to take anything away. We just have to recognize what that is. So Ordinary Zen was just my way of saying, hey, look, I'm not trying to create something special or different or something that you can aspire to and become, because my understanding is that we already are all that we're going to be. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of discovery, of awakening, rather than becoming something.
Yeah. Now, how would you say we go about recognizing and discovering this original nature? What is it that we have to do? Or maybe what do we not have to do?
Yeah. So my practice is, of course, it's rooted in Buddhism. It's rooted in Zen. And the original, when Zen first came to China and Bodhidharma expounded it, he said that we shouldn't rely on scriptures, on intellectualization, on words or doctrines, but on this one mind alone. And this is what I referred to in our little talk here in the beginning before we started recording about Buddha's original teaching, the Mahasapya, who smiled when Buddha held up a flower. And everyone else was sort of like, huh? What's this? So asking that question, what is this, is a good place to start. But the smile was this communication of this mind-to-mind direct experience that is beyond words, beyond thought. So I like to say that our practice, our ordinary Zen practice, is about getting to know ourselves. And our first obstacle to getting to know ourselves is ourselves.
Oh, the irony. Yeah. Would you say it's like a sense of false self, though? Like an idealistic self that gets in the way of the true uppercase S self?
Yeah. So in Buddhism, it's referred to as delusion, mm-hmm. or being deluded, or afflicted, afflictions. So Buddha's basic teaching was that, life is suffering. You have a body, you have an experience, and there's life and death. There's all of this suffering that we go through in our experience here. Old age, sickness, death. So how to reconcile this, how to resolve this problem? And he says, there is a solution. And getting back to the original self.
Yeah.
So what's in the way of that? So we live in what's like, lately I've been calling it a dreamscape.
Yeah.
It's this manufactured, created reality out of what we think we see, as opposed to what's actually there. So another thing that I like to say is you already see, you already hear, already see, already hear, before you say, I see, I hear. So this false self is this sense of self, this ego, this idea of I, me, and mine. This idea of I, me, and mine is the original cause of suffering. This identification with the idea of a body, a being, a soul. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Obviously, I'm sitting here with a body. But identification with it or attachment or clinging to, there's something that's added. There's something that you create with your thinking, with your emotions, with your judgments, your rising and falling of experience. I don't know about you, but I've certainly been through my therapy and through this experience of loss and grief, and I'm on my third marriage. I'm just like everybody else. I have suffered, right? I've had plenty of years of experience of what this is, what this world is. And through all that, I keep asking the question, well, what is this? What is this? And I keep coming up with seeing my own creation, my, seeing off in the distance a mirage and thinking it's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep having that experience over and over and over again, chasing. And getting back to original self, there's nothing to chase. You already have it all. Yeah. Our original face, our original mind view is like a mirror. It just reflects. After the fact, you're grabbing onto it and trying to make something of it or hold onto it. If it's a particularly beautiful reflection, you want to hold on to it. If it's an ugly, scary reflection, you don't want to see it. So these things that we identify with are not real, actually.
Yeah. Because they're temporary?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Nonetheless, there's causes and conditions. There's a reason you think of the world the way you do. Causes and conditions, dependent origination. Everything is dependent on everything else. So if this happens, that happens. Yeah. Getting into sort of the physicality of it all, the personal experience of karma.
Yeah.
Past actions having result. It is what it is. So how do you deal with that? You blame the world, you blame somebody else, or you take responsibility.
Yeah. So taking responsibility would be a way to not build karma, or blaming the world is a way to build karma, right? So when you say, is the path really a path that alludes to taking mature responsibility for one's actions so that we don't stay on the train of desire and aversion our entire lives, and we get the message and build a life of a little less resistance? Is that the whole idea of this whole thing?
That's well put.
So what do you recommend? I know I kind of asked this in the beginning, but what is the process of this? What does it look like in one's life? Is it just slowing down, noticing, meditating a little bit? Yeah. Where do we start, I guess?
Yeah. So because we're all unique, right? We all have a unique take on what this is. So starting from there, from supposedly where we're at, we have to gradually or suddenly come to terms with it and deal with it and recognize it for what it is and make the changes that we need to make. So there's all this that has to happen individually for each one of us, but it's unique to us. So what I have to do for myself in my life is different than what you need to do, but yet it is the same. We have to awaken to our original nature, which is the same. It's not different. It's pure. It's undefiled. It can't be added to. It can't be taken away from. Sometimes it's referred to as non-duality, although I like the term one mind, which is, I think, clearer and more direct experience. Non-duality for me is just duality. It's, because it's a word. So anyway, but so is one mind, just a word, depending on how you frame it and understand it. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So what is it that you can do? I think those of us who are on a path come to it for a very similar reason the way Buddha came to it. It might be different for each one of us, but the idea of recognizing that it's not working the way we're going through it now, and something has to change, or our understanding isn't there. What is this? It's confusing. The world doesn't seem right. Somehow something is wrong. And usually through our own suffering, our own personal, dis-ease with life, we come to this path. And for some of us, it may be one thing, and for others, it's another. So for me, Zen is my practice. And in Zen, the form of meditation that we do is sometimes referred to as just simply sitting. We just watch. We don't try to control anything. We don't try to take anything away. We don't try to improve. We don't try to stop thinking. We just be present to what is right now, just as it is. So because we're already Buddhas originally, what drops away is what's not real. So as we sit, thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Pains come and go. Everything is just rising and falling, rising and falling. And we're not associated with it so strongly. We're not saying, oh, damn, I need to go to the grocery store and I'm out of milk, or, my knee hurts. This is really uncomfortable, or gosh, if I just had a good woman in my life, then things would be better. All these things that rise and fall for us, we see them in a different light because we're letting them be, rising and falling, and we're not grabbing onto them. So it's a natural process. And for each one of us, it's a little different, but yet it's the same. Through our meditative practice, we get to know ourselves and we get to understand what's real and what's not. And what it really matters, it's, the storms in the teacups. We can be really upset about something. It's understandable, but it's not who we are.
Yeah.
So we stop identifying with these things as though that's who we are. Oh, I'll never get it right. I'm always getting it wrong. I just can't do it. That's just something that you're holding on to. It's not who you actually are. But I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
So in your own self-discovery, you figure it out.
Yeah.
And The reason we have guides and teachers and the like is so that, getting back to Buddha's mind-to-mind transmission, a real teacher is just reflecting. They're not trying to tell you anything. They're not trying to add anything to your life.
Mm-hmm.
They're very compassionately just being present to what it already is.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all you need from a teacher.
Yeah. True guidance back home, back to oneself, right? And it doesn't even have to be a transmission with words. It could just be, like you said, Buddha holding up a flower. As simple as that. I feel as though in real teachings, true teachings, there's something that is so poetic, so beyond logic and rationale, beyond words, that I'm at a loss for words even trying to explain it. There's just something about a real teaching that just resonates at a level that is deeper than anything, any knowledge that one could take in.
One of my favorite words for that is suchness.
Suchness. Yeah. The suchness of some teachings are so apparent. Yeah. And the beauty of it is we can feel the suchness through whatever medium, through time and space, whether it's through a book, audio, somebody's presence in a video. I don't know, just some presence in real life. There's just something special about the true Dharma that resides within a realized being and how it's, brought forth to us. There's something very special and just resonant. I think I already said that. Just very resonant about true teachings. And it's unlike any other teaching too. That's the thing. When I started to get into Dharma, I listened to what these teachers and monks were saying, and I'm like, I've never heard anything like this before. And they're using, the same English language that I've used my entire life, but it's just the way that they say it and the conviction in their word. It's not even necessarily what they say, but it's just the subtle transmission that is in one's word that is so special. Something different. That's what I was like. There's something to this. There's something subtly to this Dharma thing that these people are talking about. But yeah. Suchness.
Yeah, there is. And it's not through words. I sat for many years in Germantown, Maryland, with a Korean Zen master, Kosan Shin was his name. And lots of times I lived on the property, and lots of times in the morning I would go over and sit in the Zendo. And it would just be he and I, or two or three of us. And when I look back on those years, what I learned most from him was just silence. It was just sitting. It was just that mind-to-mind experience. Yeah. There was something, like you say, there's something that you can't put into words that's happening. It's because our nature is already pure. It's that.
Yeah.
It's already there. It's like, sometimes it's referred to as unconditional love, great love, the love of the universe. There's so many poetic ways we could try to describe what this is. Some people might call it God, but I don't go there. That's not my way.
Yeah.
But there's something beyond our understanding intellectually.
Yeah.
And, through our physical body experience ordinarily, that it's still there. So I like to refer to it as our original face. Our original face before your parents were born. What is your original face? And that original face, to me, is the same through thousands of years. when I read a sutra from 1,500 years ago or 2,000 years ago, it rings true right now. Yeah. It's, you can get caught up in the language, you can get caught up in the interpretations, you can get caught up in terminology. There's all kinds of ways you can get caught up in it all. But when you just let it be, your original face is there. It's always been there. And we have these funny experiences in our lives where, call them aha moments or whatever, where you have this realization, like you were describing, where, what is this? There's something going on here that is beyond being able to describe it. Yeah. And you have that experience in a moment. And then, it's gone maybe. It's fleeting. And you're back into your drama, your dream. And then it happens again, And I think in our particular tradition, there's these 10 ox herding pictures, which are supposed to describe the path. And one of the first pictures is, you're in the weeds, and it's the ox herding pictures, and the ox represents your mind, the original mind. You can't find, there's something there, but you don't know what it is. You're looking around in the weeds and you're caught in the brambles and you're this and that. And all of a sudden you see some tracks. Oh, there is something here. Another way of referring to that is bodhi. That's the rising up of starting on the path, of recognizing that for me, there's something here. I need to pursue this. I need to look deeper, further, find out what is this. And eventually you may get a glimpse of the ox. And eventually you may try to rein it in, but it's very stubborn. It's always trying to get away, run away. You're always trying to pull it in and rein it in and control it. It's just not letting you. And it goes on and on like that.
Yeah. I feel as though the most important pivotal step is realizing there is a path and there is an ox. Just that simple taste, that little glimpse into a different way of seeing oneself, the world, the whole universe altogether. Just a simple taste of it is enough to change everyone's life, change my life. That's the most important step, is getting that glimpse. How do you say that happens in one's life? A lot of people, I ask the same question pretty much to everybody. Most people say it's just like grace. It's not really up to us. It just kind of just happens. And then once you get it, you can't lose it. Not that obviously I'm speaking metaphorically here. There is nothing, we never lose it. That's the thing. We just lose sight of it. But how do we get the glimpse? How do we see? Is it really not up to any of us? Is it really just some kind of grace event that happens?
Well, the way to find the ox is to stop seeking it. So seeking externally is what we do.
Yeah.
And internally waking up to what we already are, we have to stop seeking. I know that sounds like a contradiction almost. It's like, wait a minute, here's the ox. How can I find it?
Yeah.
But you already have it. So that's the conundrum you're in. It's the identification with the idea of self that where it all sort of hangs up.
Yeah.
So it's like, where did it go?
Now, would you say we're all, whether we know it or not, inadvertently seeking this ox? We're yearning for this ox. Yeah. And we chase after wealth and a good relationship. And like maybe that's the ox. Maybe this is the ox, right?
Yeah. Maybe this is the big payoff over here.
I see. Yeah, it's a bunch of maybes. It's a bunch of ifs.
So
Until we realize
I don't know how to answer you. I mean, I kind of like sidelined it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to really answer you directly because there is no direct answer to how does that happen. I mean, saying it's grace, to me, infers that there's something coming into the picture, but it's really it's like opening your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's right in front of you all the time,
Yeah,
but you don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to encourage more chasing, you see.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage waking up.
Would you
So-
say? I'm sorry. Did you have something to say?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Is that the path of Zen? Is that the what Zen differentiates itself with? Is like a path of negation, as in not needing to do this or not needing to do that, not, no 10 commandments, no sowing guilt in one's being. It's I don't know. How would you explain what Zen is and how it's different from other ways of practice?
No, there is definitely correct action, correct thinking, correct livelihood. The eightfold path that Buddha represented. It's all there, and the reason we call the six perfections the path of the Bodhisattva, and in the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, which Zen is part of, we say we want to free all sentient beings. We're not going to leave this plane of existence, this experience of suffering, until all beings are freed from suffering. So it's not like we're going to go into a cave and give up all this for our own salvation. We give up our own, quote, salvation or awakening or enlightenment for the sake of all beings. So what does that mean? It means, no, we're not negating anything, actually. We're finding perfection in the unperfect. We're finding the beauty in the ugly, but without defining it that way. It's like Zen isn't about negation. Zen is just about recognizing what this is and how we fool ourselves. So it's all happening at the same time. So let's talk about it in terms of ultimate truth and relative truth. So the relative truth, you could say, is, having to feed the body, having to sleep, having to take care of your life, having to take care of the people in your life, being part of a community, all these things that we do as human beings. None of it is negated or made wrong. But there are ways you can do it that cause less suffering. There are ways you can be that are more harmonious. There are ways you can live that eases the load, the burden that you're experiencing and that you have. So, there's a balancing thing going on. There's a lot of talk in Buddhism about emptiness, okay? Saying that emptiness refers often, it's talked about as saying that nothing is permanent. So everything, there's no permanent self, there's no permanent table here, there's no permanent you, no permanent me. Nothing is permanent. So that infers that everything is empty of permanence. But if you live in the world of that, it's sort of like not recognizing that, well, because I'm here, I'm talking to you. If I wasn't here, I wouldn't be talking to you. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, how can you deny that? You see, so reality is reality within reality. It's just all there. Nothing is missing. So if this is a dream, what's lucid dreaming look like? As opposed to just being, manipulated by your own dream. What is lucid dream? How is that different? So if you're going to refer to Zen as a way of understanding life, then I would say it's more like lucid dreaming, because you're dreaming.
Oh. I never heard it put that way before.
So in other words, how do I say, okay, we're going to become enlightened, right? And all this is going to be heaven world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, there's no going to be enlightened. Enlightenment is the realm of your very existence. It's what happens when you recognize and wake up to who you are. It's that waking up process. And it's not a escape. It's not someplace you get to and then all of this goes away. You can be enlightened. You still have to take a dump.
Yeah. So how is the path of Zen, I guess, more strong suited for being able to see the lucidity of the dream? Like, what is the path to this waking up that Zen has in its path that maybe other things don't have?
When your mind is clear like space, reflects everything perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And just like space, nothing clings to it. Mm-hmm. A bird flies through space, leaves no trace. So all this that I'm talking about, our normal everyday experience, it's like that.
Yeah.
In our original face and our original mind, it leaves no trace. But it's still, we're reflecting it. So the mind, the one mind, original mind, is clear like space. So one way you're fooling yourself is if it hurts.
What hurts? Is life altogether?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like a message, right?
Well, of course it hurts, right? That's the other thing about it. You can't, life is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's still always going to be pain, though, right? Even the Buddha experiences pain. He experienced pain. So what's different about the enlightened state, the lucid state? How is pain different to the enlightened state to the unenlightened state? I guess is what I'm asking, How is the hurt different? Is there, how, when you say it hurts, are you referring to actual pain? The identification with the pain and the suffering, yeah. So the pain is just, it's like the bird, right? It just flows. So
when you're sitting in meditation,
mm-hmm.
I remember sitting in the Zendo when I was first starting to sit, we would sit for 40 minutes. And because I was sitting next to the Zen master, scared shitless to move.
Mm-hmm.
I was in so much pain.
Mm.
It was so painful. I was counting the seconds, minutes. When is this going to be over?
Mm. I see.
So eventually, it just became part of the rising and falling.
Yeah.
I began to appreciate my pain for what it is, rather than fight it, want to get away from it, live without it.
Mm. Yeah.
And no longer is such a burden. It's just like, oh, I have pain. I have pain now.
Yeah. I see. Rather than trying to push it away. Oh, pain. Oh, misery.
I mean,
fear.
it can also be, it's biofeedback. I mean, it's telling you, okay, you need to move, or you need to do this, or you need, there's something that your body needs, or, you don't deny, like I said earlier, you don't deny anything. So if there's an intuition that we haven't talked about that comes into this practice, intuition doesn't come from our thinking mind. Intuition is like wisdom mind. It's like wisdom is beyond our educated. Doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter, how educated you are, how much knowledge you have, how many sutras you read, whatever. It has nothing to do with wisdom or intuition. So all these things that we use, that we accumulate to try to be better, has nothing to do with the reflection of our wisdom mind and experiencing things as they are. So intuition is wonderful when it happens for you, when you recognize something that needs to be handled or taken care of, or is affecting how things turn out, or I guess another way to put it is looking at something like a martial art. So if you're practicing martial arts, if there's any sort of idea of self and pain or avoidance, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you.
Yeah.
You have to be in the moment, which means not identified with all of that.
Yeah.
So that your intuition and your wisdom can work, and whatever needs to happen can. It's like walking. When we walk, do you think I have to walk now? You just walk.
Yeah.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. It just is.
Yeah. So it's strengthening that mental muscle of natural intuition that we all have, so that we do walk the walk, and not even just when we're walking, in all parts of our life, and all the ups and downs in the ride of life, it just sort of flows. There is less resistance to the goings on of our life. That's the essence. Yeah. Life is the martial art. It's the form.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It
I
is.
see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. This is good.
Well, I have a practice. I have to keep coming back to it because, otherwise I could, not see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, I go to the beach on Saturday mornings to meditate. And This morning on the way there, I lost my way. I forgot where I was for a moment. Sometimes when you're driving and you get caught up in your mind and times, you lose space, time, everything. It's like, whoa, how did I even get here?
Uh-huh.
How did I manage to stop at this stop sign? I was like on automatic pilot. And that was such a wake up for me. It was like, oh man, you're still asleep. Wake up. You're still dreaming. So life is like that. It'll hopefully in a less painful way than being in an accident, you'll wake up before that happens. And you recognize that when you're driving, you better be like that ninja and pay attention to all the surroundings and what's happening.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it was, 5:30 in the morning and there was nobody around.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a little wake up call. Hey, hello.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing?
Our life is filled with those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I like it.
Yeah.
I think life is an adventure.
Yeah,
it's
truly.
Not burdens. Yeah, it's suffering, but it's an adventure also.
I feel as though that's the big difference, is finding the adventure in the suffering. So it's no more woe is me. It's almost like carpe diem. How are we gonna work in the essence of the martial art? Like, how do we flow with this suffering? You know, amidst the turmoil of our life. How do we work with it? Like judo, In judo, you go with the energy. You use that energy for your benefit. Seems like that. This original mind, this intuition is like a judo of our life. Interesting. Yeah. What sticks in my head is how, the essence of what we talked about, it hurts. It's more of like just a different way to approach our suffering, different way to see our suffering is how I was going to say escape it, but that's not really the right way. It's a different way to, I was also going to say negate it. I don't even know if that's the right way to say it. It's just I guess easing the suffering is a different way of seeing the suffering in our life. Would you say that's the essence of it?
Yeah.
Seeing ourselves. Yeah. Like we said, less attachment to it. Just, there's some pain. There's some anger. There's some misery. There it is. Don't become like, I am angry. I am in pain. Just, notice, right? So would you say the key is finding equanimity between noticing the pleasure equally as much as we can notice the pain, embracing the suffering as much as we can embrace the good in our life? Would you say that's kind of the middle way?
No, I would say the middle way is, well, I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
Over 30 years ago, I had a 16-year-old daughter that died in a car accident.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, as a parent, that was great suffering.
Yeah.
So after that event, I was living in the DC area, and I was walking along this canal along the river, Potomac River, and just walking with my grief and my pain and my suffering. And I asked this question, how am I supposed to deal with this? And at clear as day, like sunshine, I heard my daughter's voice. Letting go is freedom. So I think that's it. It's letting go. It's not accepting one way and being okay with it, and accepting the other way and being okay with that. It's letting go, both clinging to the joyful experience and clinging to the sad experience. It's opening the hand, and it's like compassion. Compassion is an open hand to everything as it is, understanding it completely, and just, coming back to earlier in our conversation about this one mind, it's so beyond words. And so that letting go of words, letting go of emotional states. Another story I'll share with you is in terms of suffering and pain, when I was going through my divorce after this terrible accident, a couple of years later, I went through a divorce, and I was living at the Zendo at the time, and I happened to cross the Zen master going for a walk out on the grounds, and he saw me, and I stopped him, and I started ranting about, my wife, she's just driving me crazy. This is terrible. I'm in so much pain, and she blah 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 blah. I was going on and on and on, and he just stood there quietly, and then he said, emotional mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it took for me to sort of snap out of it and recognize my attachment, my clinging to my view, my ideas of how things were, and my emotional state. And that was just an emotional state that, I was identifying it as though that was me. I was suffering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not that I wasn't, you see, but it's the clinging to, it's the freedom of letting go. Now I can breathe. You see, it's like the tension, the anxiety, just kind of like, there's no need for it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I wasn't, letting it go is not the same as denial. It's not saying, I'm not affected by that. That won't affect me.
Yeah. It's just that, we don't hold on to it. We don't create more suffering out of the suffering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the analogy of the lotus blossom coming up out of the muck and the mud, deeply rooted in the human experience of suffering. And this beautiful flower, pure and perfect, rising up out of that. It's like, let's suppose some beings in some heaven world don't have this experience of suffering. It's all perfect. Every need, every desire, whatever is all met. They don't have enlightenment. They can't. Because in order to have enlightenment, you have to suffer.
That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I like to keep in the back of my head the saying from Ram Dass. It says, so. So. There's also a saying from the book Slaughterhouse-Five. I don't know if anyone knows that. So it goes. So it goes.
Yep.
It's very Zen. So it goes. Mm-hmm. It does go. The suchness. This is a wonderful talk. I don't even know where to go from here. Quite speechless, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this one. Do you feel like tapping into this one mind, the suchness, the intuitive guidance brings about some kind of will, or you're tapping into some kind of will? I don't even know if will is the right word, but some kind of discernment that leads to different actions in your life that aren't even by you. Like there is some other tethering of your actions that lead you down a different path, as in, would we see you as more of a calm person, compassionate person, soft spoken? Like, is there some kind of way or archetype that an awakened being follows? You know what I'm getting at?
I do. Yeah. So we make choices according to our understanding of how things are. So your understanding changes, your choices change.
Yeah.
So my view of liberation, awakening, is that it is the only answer. There is nothing else that works.
Yeah.
You have to awaken in order to really affect things in a positive way, because everything we do otherwise has some sort of karmic repercussion.
Mm-hmm.
The other night in our Sangha during the Dharma talk, somebody brought up, the horrible state that the world's in, and the wars, and what's happening in Palestine, and how it was so disturbing to him. Understandably, of course. And I was saying, that is not going to change from this duality of us and them, this and that, and war cannot solve anything when it comes right down to it. It's not a solution. It's just part of the, it's the suffering. It's the three poisons, the ignorance, greed, anger at work all the time. And so what changes, I think, and what you're asking me, is that ignorance, greed, and anger don't have such a hold on you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The awakened heart mind, greed, ignorance, anger just don't have a hold on that kind of way of being.
Yeah.
It comes and goes, but it doesn't have a hold on you. It doesn't control your life.
Yeah. So coming from the awakened mind is a different response, would you say? So the anger, greed, and what was the other one? Sorry.
Ignorance.
Ignorance. And yeah, that's a big one. So the anger, greed, and ignorance are not the captain of the ship. They don't say you should do this or you should do that. Well, they might say that, but there's almost like that intuition allows one to not listen to it and act more wisely, more sattvically.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel as though that's what's very important, that inner discernment. So we act in a wise manner so that we don't have war anymore, ultimately, right? I guess that would be a great goal. But also not even just war, like actual war, but war within ourselves, right? War within the mind. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what was happening with my emotional mind example. When you go through something like a divorce, it's very easy to be blaming and angry. And,
they did this to me.
Ignorant, and it's all her fault.
Yep. Yeah.
Where things change.
Yeah.
People change. And there could be a good reason for two people to go their separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be done in such a way that doesn't create more suffering, you see, from a more enlightened point of view.
Yeah.
So if you're really caught up and you're really clinging to some idea of how things are, you're creating more suffering.
Mm-hmm. Which is essentially just perpetuating the way things are, or the way that you think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just this loop. That's samsara, essentially.
Samsara.
Wow. Yeah. This is making a lot of sense. Wow. Okay.
Well, I really appreciate what you do.
I appreciate
by
you.
Bringing all these various beings, these people into your sphere. And putting this on YouTube and sharing it. It's really important work because, everything has to, I liked one of the things that I read not too long ago was about sitting meditation, and you should sit like you're a hen sitting on eggs. And when a hen sits on eggs, it doesn't just sit there waiting for the eggs to hatch. It turns them, moves them, adjusts, and is constantly adjusting to helping the eggs to hatch. So you're like this chicken helping the eggs to hatch because you're constantly moving them around.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great. I've never heard that one before.
I just made it up.
I like it. Yeah, waiting for the eggs to hatch. And the master chicken. I like to think another metaphor is I see myself as this mycelial network connecting all of this, the one mind, if you want to call it, the different viewpoints and perspective of the one mind, which can be looked at as the different eggs. And if it resonates with somebody, it resonates. If not, then there's, no attachments to that. It's just kind of just throwing it out there. That's my attitude. Just kind of see what happens.
That's mine too,
Planting seeds. And if they are planted in good soil, then they will grow. I think Jesus said something like that. And,
yes, that's right.
I guess that's the essence of the Dharma.
Yeah.
If it grows, it grows. Just throwing it out there.
That's the other thing that's interesting about the Dharma is that it's not about Buddhism per se.
What do you mean?
Well,
it's not like just the Buddhist Dharma.
Yeah, it's not just a Buddhist thing, right? Because we always put things into categories and we end up, defining it. It's either, it can't be this if it's that.
Yeah.
So, like Jesus, for example, there are things about that whole story of Jesus that I just really love too. Now, the lily of the field is another one, it's so famous that toil not. See the lilies, they toil not.
What is that? Let me look that one up. Do you know it off the top of your head?
I don't know where that's from exactly, but as far as I know, that's a saying that came from one of Jesus's sermons. See the lilies of the field, they toil not. Something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure the exact phrase.
Let me see. Oh, it was also Luke 12:27. Consider how the wildflowers grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, but that's very similar. Same sort of thing. Like, hey, original nature doesn't toil.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to say the truth is one and the wise call it by many names.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah, it's from the Rig Veda. I try to keep that in the back of my mind. Many different fingers to the same moon,
Yeah.
As long as we don't get lost at the finger and think that's the moon. That's all that matters.
Pointing at the moon.
Yep. I'm trying to find the exact quote. I think I think that's good though. Like it's Luke 12:27. I already said it. Look at the lilies, how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. Yeah. And I think Solomon is meant to is like, Maya, the illusion, and all of its glory, all of its splendor. It's not dressed as beautifully as the original mind. They don't work. Well, this is wonderful. Yeah, I think that's a great note to wrap this up at, to be honest with you. Do you have any last words? Anything you want to say?
No, I think I said everything I need to say.
Yeah.
And probably more than I needed to say.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that all the time. Like, what more do I need to say? There's nothing to be said, really. Oh, here's the actual. It's Matthew 6:28. Why are you so anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They don't toil, neither do they spin. Simple as that. Simple as that. Just grow. No toil, no spinning. Well, hey, Will, this was a wonderful talk. I wish you all the best. Keep doing your thing. I thank you for coming on here. I don't have anything else to say other than thank you. And yeah, that's it. Keep on keeping on.
So I'm happy to be here. I just noticed that my color is way off, and I adjusted my lights, and I think I didn't get it quite right because I look really red, and that's not my natural color. So
I think it looks fine.
Don't worry about it. That's just the way it is. But it looks a little strange to me because I'm used to seeing the actual colors of this space. But I moved things around for you. And so I must have messed with the light.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see when you put your hand up.
Yeah.
It's a little more light. It's okay, though. Hey, it's fine. All that really matters is the word here. The image is just like secondary. It's just additional. Sure. So really all that matters is what we say here. And really that doesn't even matter either in the essence of it. Really.
Yeah. So you discovered me on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I also have audio podcasts, and I have many more of those because it's much easier to edit audio and it's much easier to post it. So I do 2 Dharma talks a week, and those go out more regularly. Mm-hmm. The ones on YouTube, I try to get them out as much as I can, but it's harder, especially when they're really long and complicated and there's a lot of people and it's like having to edit,
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I do it less frequently, but I'm glad you discovered me, and it was very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well, Will. It was all thanks to the almighty algorithm. Brought us together. So thank the algorithm gods. But yeah, thank you for coming on here. I thank anybody that listened this long, and that's it. Thank you for your time, effort, and wisdom. Peace and love.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Peace and love to you.